What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fan? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench Podcast Network and channel. Giving a shout out to the rest of the crew: Shad, Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right. That's right. I love that name, Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right. Well, for everyone who's tuning in, we hope that you support Behind the Bench, become a subscriber, help make the show the best that it can be, and we always thank you for your support and making this channel go and making this channel happen. Much appreciation indeed. Okay. And sorry, I've been unable to, you know, provide any new content as of late due to time constraints or whatnot. But I will set aside time to do videos as much as I can and provide that sports content like we do. But I wanted to share something, man. Like I said, man, I'm a fan of the Los Angeles Lakers, right? But I love the NBA. So anytime I see a team doing something like a team starting over again and they're building something special, that's a good feeling, man, because it reassures that we could have did the same thing. And when I look at teams like Oklahoma City Thunder, they're up 3-0 versus the Pelicans in their first round matchup. Now the Pelicans are not at full strength. They were missing Zion Williamson, and it's a blow to that team because he was playing great and he was healthy this year. And they just haven't had a chance to be complete and whole to really show what they can do as far as, what their potential is as a team. And matter of fact, they would not have even been at a lower seed. They would have been like a top four seed in the West if they had been healthy this year. But nonetheless, OKC, you got to give them kudos just for the fact that they were the youngest team ever to clinch the number one seed in a conference. Well, definitely in the Western Conference. So they're definitely heading in the right direction. And the Pelicans, I believe, still have a bright future. They have to, of course, work out some things to improve. But hopefully they can just be healthy in the future, man, But when you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're up 3-0 in their series versus Phoenix. You look at the Dallas Mavericks. Now their series is tied versus the Clippers, tied 2-2 as of today after the Clippers beat them in Game 4 of their first round series to tie things up at 2 games apiece. The Houston Rockets improved this year. They did not make the playoffs, but they improved. They finished with a record, I believe, of 40-42. That's probably like around a 10-game improvement, 10, 12-game improvement from last year. So when you see these teams, Sacramento, they finished with a record of 46-36. They did not make the playoffs, but they can make an improvement to their roster, moving ahead, down the road. But they show they're viable. The Orlando Magic, they're tied 2 games apiece in their first round Eastern Conference matchup versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, who's also another young oriented team. So that series really can go either way as a 4 or 5 matchup. And then you had the Indiana Pacers, another young driven team. They're up 3-1 against the Milwaukee Bucks, even though they're missing Giannis due to injury and as well as Damian Lillard. But Indiana gave Milwaukee trouble all season long while both teams were at full strength. So you have to say that either way, Indiana is a matchup problem for a team like Milwaukee. And like I said, I'll always appreciate what Giannis Antetokounmpo did in breaking this cycle of superstars joining forces as far as like prime franchise level players. And he led Milwaukee to a championship, and that set the tone for the decade. I really believe that his willingness to compete set the tone for the decade. So I will always appreciate Giannis for doing that. The New York Knicks have a great combination of young veterans and young talent, and they made key moves. And they're up 3-1 versus the veteran-laden Philadelphia 76ers. And Joel Embiid, who's the the reigning league MVP. So when you see this common occurrence between young-driven teams and veteran teams, the young teams are gaining an experience from last year, and they're starting to win out. So when I look at it, man, I say, well, if they're able to accomplish that, what would make people believe that the young core, the real young core of the Lakers, accomplish the same thing? And I came across a video by a fellow Laker fan, and he I don't think he actually realized that he made this comment. He say, I keep up on Julius Randle and Brandon Ingram because I have this feeling that they're still the real Lakers. Well, he's telling the truth. See, when you get right down to it, Brandon Ingram and Josh Hart is showing out in these playoffs. Josh Hart is showing out exactly what I believe he would be, type player he would be once he started reaching his prime. He's the best rebounder in the NBA, pound for pound. He has 17 rebounds today versus the 76ers. He out-rebounded Joel Embiid. He is the best pound for pound rebounder in the National Basketball Association. And the Lakers drafted him outright and shipped him out of there to try to bring in multiple superstars for that guy that's on their team now. That's crippling the franchise to pursue win now scenarios. And Brandon Ingram has led the Pelicans to the playoffs 2 out of the past 3 years. Would have did it last year too if it wasn't for injuries. But they missing a franchise player, and he's a phenomenal player in Zion Williamson. But he just suffered. He just, at the most inopportune time, he has these just terrible injuries, man, and you feel for it, But Brandon Ingram has led that team to the playoffs, so he proved that he can lead the team to the playoffs. Julius Randle, before New York really started to build a team up, Julius Randle led the Knicks to the playoffs for the first time since prime Carmelo Anthony years 2014, 2015. And he did it with the second best player on the Knicks being Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose as a six man, coming off the bench for the Knicks. And Julius Randle led that team to the playoffs. The Clippers are playing much better in the postseason. They tied the series up. A lot of the reason why the Clippers are playing better than expected while missing Kawhi Leonard, or with Kawhi Leonard being ineffective due to that knee injury he got. Well, a lot of it is because they're starting to incorporate Ivica Zubac into their offense. Game 1, 20 points, 15 rebounds in a rout of the a convincing win versus the Mavericks. And then in Game 3, although the Clippers lost on the road, Zubac had like 18 points and about 8 rebounds. And tonight he had 13 points, but he was featured early on when the Clippers took that big lead. It was able to, eventually regain control of the game in the fourth quarter to seal the win. And like I said, it gets back to the point, man. The Los Angeles Lakers realize they don't realize what they gave up. Kyle Kuzma is in Washington, averaging 22 points a game. He was a top 5 rookie of the league vote getter in his first year in the NBA. He's top 5 in Laker history for total points scored in the season by a rookie. Kyle Kuzma, and he was just traded because that guy wanted another superstar. And it's senseless. It's senseless, man. And the reason I want to bring this up again is that kudos to these teams, man, that stuck with their youth. See, that's the impulse. That's the driving engine now. It's the youth movement, man. And just as when the previous generation of young NBA talent debuted and that quote-unquote baton was passed on to them, just as when the 80s ended, it was passed on to the 90s superstars, and the 90s ended, it was passed on to the superstars of the 2000s. And that's how it's supposed to go. But the super team era has preempted a lot of natural, development and occurrences throughout the league. That's why I'm so against it and oppose it. And I don't really think that the super team is really based on real competition, because it's not. It's not. And because of the super team era, because of the mindset that has been indoctrinated in a lot of fans today, because of what they've been exposed to over the past 15 years, because of this movement, young talent became expendable, whereas that was never done before. When teams started over, they built up young talent. Or to maintain their run, they continued to draft players to their team. And they didn't mortgage their future. The NBA wasn't even set up that way to where a team would even think about, organization would even think about doing it, something like that. So, but I wanted to share this, with the people tuning in. The term young core, right? It's become very popular. It's becoming a staple of NBA discussion and conversation and lingo. Well, do you know when the term young core was originated in regards to the NBA? It really started with the Los Angeles Lakers. It started with the Los Angeles Lakers when they began drafting all their young talent. When they started their youth movement after the late great Kobe Bean Bryant retired in 2016. That's when they really started to amp it up. And it originated with Julius Randle in 2014. Now, previous to that, they drafted players like, Ryan Kelly and Robert Sacred and the like, and like Wesley Johnson, players like that. It didn't work out, and you can tell it wasn't gonna work out. And it's not a knock on them. It's just it proved that you couldn't continue building around them. You know what I'm saying? But it started with Julius Randle. Then they drafted D'Angelo Russell. They drafted actually, no, I'll take that back. Julius Randle, Jordan Clarkson, and D'Angelo Russell, and Larry Nance Jr. And then it was almost like every year they was drafting two young players. In 2016, it was Brandon Ingram and Vita Zubac. And then from there, 2017, they took it up a whole nother level. They brought in 4 new draftees: Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart, and Thomas Bryant. They brought in 4 of them, man. And I was looking, I said, because I didn't know who was drafting. I didn't know who was drafted. I had no idea. But I was just amazed, man. I was like in awe of what we were doing. I said, man, this is groundbreaking. This is groundbreaking. And then 2018, they brought in 2 more draftees. Mo Wagner, who led his Michigan Wolverines to the national championship game that year as an at-large bid team. They was an underdog all the way through and reached the championship game before they lost to I believe that was, I want to say, North Carolina. I believe North Carolina. Yeah, it was North Carolina. Yep, North Carolina. Because I remember Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan was in attendance watching that game. And then they drafted, and Mo Wagner is making great contribution with the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic is a legitimate playoff team. They made it outright. They didn't have to go through the play-in to get to the playoffs. And they making a good showing so far, tying their series up after being down 2-0. And then Thomas Bryant. We drafted Thomas Bryant out of University of Indiana. He was shooting 40% from 3 in college. He was shooting 40% from 3. And so now you have a legitimate traditional post center in Zubac, and you had a stretch 5 in Thomas Bryant. The draft that we was doing, man, was off the freaking charts. Because I was sitting there putting the pieces of the puzzle. I said, damn, now we got a stretch 5. We got a traditional big man. We got a versatile wing in BI, Brandon Ingram. He really operates best as a 2 guard, playing the 2 position. I said we got a left-handed power forward that's versatile and can facilitate the ball in Julius Randle. I said we got a 6'6" point guard as a rookie, even with the unorthodox shot. He didn't turn the ball over. He had tremendous court vision. He was quick as lightning going down the court, and he was averaging 7 rebounds and 7 assists, and darn near 2 steals as a rookie. He averaged like a steal and a half as a rookie. And then I said we got a Kyle Kuzma, 22 years old, who has a knack for hitting big shots. And then we have a guy in Jordan Clarkson who kind of got that mommy mentality. I said he coming there, he putting pressure on the defense. He gonna shoot. He gonna shoot. And I said, man, he'll mess around and become 6th man of the year one day. And he did in 2021. So My conclusions as to which each player can achieve as they start reaching maturing as players, it's been spot on. It's been spot on because I watched them diligently. I mean, like, and other Laker fans too, not just myself. But I'm just saying, since I'm doing this video, I just want to express how much I was, watching them. And so the term young core originated with the Los Angeles Lakers. See, fans of the franchise, fans of the team don't realize we were so far ahead of the curve. Think about it. Think about it. This was back in 2018. And 5-6 years later, you see all these teams emerging at the same time with their young talent. All of them at the same time. So think if we would have stayed the course and allowed this team to grow and develop. And then in 2019, when we had the largest free agent pool in league history, superstars, all-stars, big-time role player, big-time bench player, shooters, defenders, quote-unquote rim protectors. We bring in the right starters willing to elevate them young players and grow with them and anchor them. And then you could bring in a high-level player come off that bench. We already had a top 3 bench in the NBA. By the time they really started getting into gear, they had a top 3 bench in the NBA. Top 3. And then it got to the point for a period where they was the highest scoring bench in the NBA. And all that was thrown away, man. And I'm so stunned by it, man. I'm just, and this is 5 years after the fact, but you see the ramifications of doing this. Because the only team in the NBA that has traded off or let go or mortgaged their youth away, the only team in the NBA that's ever done this are the Lakers. And when you look at, see, it's not even a return on your investment. You can't even say that because they mortgaged it off to try to generate an all-time win-out scenario. And outside of one season that ended in a very precarious nature, the team hasn't done anything in terms of what they've been expected to do while operating right now. Because ultimately, you can't do this. You can't take shortcuts to this degree because you're leaving yourself susceptible to this major disappointment. But when you grow in the right way, you know exactly where you're at on a year-to-year basis and how players need to improve, what they need to work on. And then when you feel that you need to make a move, it's going to be appropriate. It's not going to really take away from what you're doing. Well, they scrapped everything because of that guy. And that's the only reason that they did it. And they sitting here struggling. And they on the brink of elimination. Now, Denver has to close it out. But the fact of the matter is, the fact you got 2 superstars on this team and they can't win 50 games, man. And it's so inconsistent because your roster overhaul is so extreme. But what the fans don't realize is, man, this movement was spearheaded by the late, great Dr. Jerry Buss before he passed. He saw the importance of developing young talent. That's why he came up with the idea of becoming the first NBA franchise to own his own developmental team, a developmental squad. He had that foresight and that vision, just as he did in the 80s. That eventually brought forth and created Showtime, the Showtime era. Team of the 80s. Team of the decade. Well, I believe in my heart of hearts, and I'm not just talking just because I'm upset about the situation. I honestly believe because Kyle Kuzma also made this statement. He ought to know because he got a chance to play with his the young core teammates, practice against them, compete against them in practice. And he said, going into his third year, 2019-2020 season. He said, I'm surprised that we let go of all these young talent. I believe we had a future dynasty. The fans don't understand what was given up. A potential dynasty. See, this is heavy, man, because like if this was just let's say you draft some young players, right? We see the Detroit Pistons, and I'm not trying to knock them because I know they're trying to build something, but they've been struggling for some years. I think last time they made the playoffs was like in 2018. I think when Blake Griffin was their top player, after he was traded from the Clippers, and Andre Drummond was on their team too. And they've been drafting players, man. They trying to get it right, but they just can't get past that initial front of improvement. Well, this is different, man, because like I said, in 2017, we brought in 4 new drafted players, man. 4 of them in the same draft. So now you're so rich in young talent that you can literally go 10 deep where 9 of your players are drafted, because we had Contavious Caldwell Pope at the time starting at the 2 guard. And Caldwell Pope was a very solid player for the Lakers while he was playing for the team. And now he's in Denver. He helped them win the first championship ever. So what I'm trying to say is, man, a lot of times when something's revolutionary and they are ahead of their time, we tend not to see it. But we see it through the efforts of other teams or other segments of society who adapt what you had in the grasp of your hand and gave away, and then using it to their advantage. This is why Oklahoma City adopted that philosophy. They haven't signed no free agents. They're set so good, they're going to roll for the next 12 to 15 years. They will not have to deal with the crap and the pressure of bringing a superstar on board who wants to take over their franchise and stack the deck. They don't even need to put up with that. They don't need to put up with that because you're lowering the bar when you do that, and you're selling yourself short. And they the youngest team to ever reach number 1 seed, at least in the Western Conference. I want to say the NBA, but I'll just say the West. Youngest team ever. Their future is so bright. And I think about us, we was 5 years ahead of that. So imagine where we would have been at if we would have stayed the course. You got your young talent as the foundation. 2019, you could have brought that star free agent, the right player, the right star player to the team. Your cap space would be appropriated darn it to perfection, because you're strictly paying your players based on merit and their production. No one is overpaid. No one is undervalued. It's a steady flow. And then you have your draft picks going into the 2020s, where once you set your foundation, the style of play, you can always draft players that can continue building on what you already have. And you will not fall off at all. That's what we had. And that's why I'm upset. So when I look at what's going on now, I consider it to be the bar being lowered. I consider it to be we wind up selling ourselves short. Yeah, there's a lot of talk and a lot of lingo and a lot of hype, but there's no substance. You cannot truly succeed as a franchise when you really have no players of your own representing your team. I'm talking about for drafted players. They do have Max Christie, but he's really, he's young and, they're in a win-out scenario. So especially in this postseason, he's not getting any playing time. And then Austin Reeves, he's a darn good player, man. And they scouted him. He's undrafted. So they do have D'Angelo Russell, but based on the outcome of this postseason, if they fall short, then they're going to be calling for him to be traded again. and it's just never going to end, man, until someone put an end to it. So what I'm saying is, man, you really have no core players on this team that is drafted. So how can you really have a true connection to what's going on? But like I said, I came across a video of a fellow Laker fan who said that, man, I still support, and I want Julius Randle and Brandon Ingram to do good, but it's a funny feeling because I feel they're the real Lakers. It's because they are the real Lakers, and that's the point. And the reason why they was let go, even though they was revolutionary in their presence as the original young core of the NBA, because that's really what they are. They are the original young core of the NBA. And because of the fact that they was before their time, they wind up being exploited and traded away so that guy can bring in superstars and quote unquote veteran players because that's the only way he can win. I mean, based on the way his career, he has carved out his career, that's the only way he can win. So when you think about what was given up and the psychological effects of that, man, and I know this is just sports, but sports is a fabric of life for those who gravitate to it. It's a psychological blow because now what you're saying is you don't believe that you can win with your own. That's what you're saying. But other teams are showing that they can win with their own. And then they can add key pieces once the foundation is set. That's how you build a team. But in this situation, they're actually operating in reverse. It's like a reverse mortgage. You take it out. You take it out way before you really should be making moves. See, first of all, you mortgage your talent out, but you took out a reverse mortgage to try to get a return on an investment that you already mortgaged off. So therefore, once you go into that mode, you can't break yourself out of it because to fill the team every year, you have to keep overhauling the roster and you bringing in lesser and lesser talent because the free agent pool will not be the primary source of really significantly improving your team because most of the superstars that have been available or made themselves to be free agents over these past 10 years, they're on the other side of 30 and they're aging out. And the young stars of the NBA, they have re-upped with the teams who originally drafted them. And they're in great situations. So when I look at what's going on with my team, man, it's like if you put a stop to this right now and pull the rug from underneath the feet, what do we think is going to happen? It's all going to collapse. It's all going to collapse. So, and it's all because of the void left by getting rid of the original young core of the NBA, which is the deepest young core to this date that I've ever seen. Even 5 years later, this team darn near fielded. This organization darn near fielded a team consisting of all drafted players, before the significant players on the team. Outside of one player, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the rest of the player on their roster was all drafted, and they was competing hard, man. And that's another thing. They competed hard, man. I came across one fan of the Lakers who said they didn't give 150% effort. I believe Brandon Ingram would be a better player in the Lakers than he is right now. I believe Randall would have been because he'd have been the leader of the team because he was the senior member of the young core. I think his focus would be even greater in the pride of like, we're gonna lead this franchise back to prominence. It just would have resonated, man. I'm telling you, and that was given up. That's a psychological blow. So now you have to go along with everything that this dude want because for all practical purposes, man, we've thrown all the chips in the middle of the table, and you can't do that. You cannot do that when you in a position of leadership. You can't do that, man. And I miss these young men. Well, they're men now, but I missed them because I'll never get an opportunity to see what they could have did. See, no other team has put themselves in a position where you'll never know. You know, so history or destiny was disrupted. And that's heavy, man. And when all this is over, man, I believe it's gonna be a real hollow feeling, a real shallow feeling, because they're not succeeding the way as expected. But you can't when you forego and you mortgage your way to trying to win. And you give up outstanding young men and basketball players who competed hard, who worked hard, who was competing. They didn't sell us short, you know. And it's almost like they're the lost sons, man. That's what it feels like, because it's like nobody really mentions them, man. You know, it's kind of like uh, they are a means to an end type situation, you know. But they was of the greatest importance. They was the most important element of this franchise moving forward. Not bringing this dude to the team or not trading for the other superstar, but the foundation. You got to have that to sustain anything of permanence, man. You got to have that foundation. And I just miss him, man. I do. And I know it may sound corny. It may sound corny, and I get that, man. But I believe that it was inappropriate when you're young men like that and they trusted in you and they got to go through something like that. But I think in their careers they've shown a great deal of character, um, being professional. They've been more professional than a lot of the chaos that we've been seeing going on with the team over the past 6 years. They have been the utmost professional. You don't hear nothing bad about them. Nothing. Nothing. You don't hear them in the news, nothing like that. And I'm not saying they perfect. I'm not saying even, someone's reporting in the news for doing something wrong that you can't learn from. That's not what I'm saying. I just think they were upstanding young men that wanted to rep this franchise, man. And they deserved their opportunity because they was playing hard. You know, they give more effort than a lot of these the incarnations of the team that they didn't roll up in and out of here over the past 4 years. You know, they didn't sell the fans short, and the fans know that. They know that. I haven't come across one fan who said they sold us didn't give their all or was out there lollygagging. Nope, not one, because they didn't. So I'm gonna always support them, man. Uh, you know, uh, and the franchise, man, they're operating out of like whoever's available. We're gonna get him. We're gonna get him. We're gonna get him. It's just there's no real connection, man. There's no real. It's like here go a perfect example. I'm gonna close this up. Michael Cooper got selected to the Hall of Fame, which is a tremendous honor, right? All his teammates he played with during the Showtime years, they showed up to support him and give their congratulations. Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy, A.C. Green, Byron Scott, Kurt Rambis, Jamal Wilkes. They all showed up, man, because they had a bond, man. They had a family, dog. They was allowed to grow together. You see, but this team that's out here right now with the pad, man, fans gonna forget that Montrezl Harrell was on the team, or Carmelo Anthony was on the team, or Kendrick Nunn was on the team, or whoever else they rolled up in here, Andre Drummond. They gonna forget about all that. It ain't gonna be no reunion 20 years down the line with these players. There's only two players left from their team that won in the bubble. The guy that they, the guy that caused all this, and the guy that they mortgaged everything up to get. Only two players remain. That just show you how extreme in nature this whole situation is. Two players remain from a team just from 4 years ago. Whereas Showtime Lakers, after they drafted Byron Scott and then later on AC Green, that was their starting five for 5 years straight. Magic, Scott, Worthy, Green, and Kareem. That was their starting five from 85 until 89. Same thing with the Bulls. The first three-peat, Jordan, Pippen, Paxson, Grant, Armstrong. And the only change they made was replacing Armstrong, Paxson with Armstrong. But then Paxson hit the big shot uh, to help seal that the first three-peat championship for the Bulls in 1993. And that's why Jordan said, I know Paxson was going to hit that shot. They had been teammates since Jordan's second year in the league. So they had a chemistry inside out. So when they had their reunion, they had a 25th reunion. That must have been in 2016 to celebrate the 25th commemoration of their first championship. And they had all the players return that represented that team. That's what you call a bond, man. And this young core could have represented the franchise for a long period of time where they had it. Because I believe they still had that type of relationship. They still keep in touch with each other, man. They still close. I remember watching the game between the Knicks and Utah. That may have been a year ago, 2 years ago, where the Knicks played Utah in Utah. And Jordan Clarkson and Julius Randle embraced each other. They exchanged jerseys, man. And they still got that closeness, dog. And it's a crying shame, man, that they was let go the way they were, man. I'm sorry, man. And I ain't trying to be be a downer or anything like that, man, because I know fans want to see the team win, man. But I just believe, man, this was inappropriate what happened to them, man, because the franchise should have protected them because they were young men. They should have protected them, man, and said, them are ours. We're not giving this up to the world. OKC, they not doing that. They in first place. Minnesota not doing that. They're ahead in their series. They could close it out tonight or they eventually win the series. Orlando, they building something special with their young players. Sacramento has rebounded as a franchise by building around their core players. They got a family type situation down in New Orleans, man. That means something, man. But I'm gonna always give kudos to these young men. They shown a tremendous deal of character to me, a tremendous amount of character as to what was done to them because they didn't foresee them being let go the way they were. They was told one thing and a different outcome happened, but they showing their worth. They showing that they can contribute to winning. They showed they contribute to winning because that was they try to rationalize, why they was let go. You heard people say, "Oh, they can't win." But like I said, Ingram has led their team down there to the playoffs 2 times while their franchise player had been out. Randall led the Knicks to the playoffs for the first, and he didn't have nobody on their team outside Derrick Rose. He had nobody like what they got now, and he did that for the first time in 7 years. Clarkson helped Utah clinch the #1 seed in the West 3 years ago when Donovan Mitchell missed the last month and a half due to severe ankle sprain. He did that. Zubac was the starting center for the Clippers when they reached the conference finals for the first time in franchise history. He was their starting center. And they still haven't replaced him since they traded him. So when I look at it, it's a trade-off for the ages. If they would have stuck with their real players, they would have more success. Would they have won the title? Would they would have won in 2020? No, they would not. But it would have been a natural progression, And I think fans would, if they would allow themselves time to really be patient with them, they would have cashed in, and we'd have been happier as a fan following, and I think we'd have been proud to watch these young men grow together in their uniform. That should have been the mentality that we should have had. That should have been. If this was, I put it this way, pre-super team era, that's what we would have did. I put it that way, because it's not about the fans. It's about the environment that exists, the precedent that has been established in the NBA over the past 15 years. So this is really not a fan issue. It's about how everything has become devalued when it comes to natural team building over these past 15 years, and that has been preempted by the super team mentality. That's what happened to us. Otherwise, we would enjoy watching them grow, and I think we would have been amazed at what they could achieve. But uh, uh, but it is what it is. I'm just glad. I'm glad that they're doing what they're doing, man. And to me, as I always say, they are the real Lakers in heart, because they are Lakers. No matter what happens, from here to eternity, they were drafted to be, they were meant to be, and they should have been Lakers for years and years and years. So I want to drop that nugget. The original young core of the NBA was spearheaded and drafted by none other than the Los Angeles Lakers. And until next time, this is JB for BTB, Behind the Bench.